Book 18. Odysseus and Iris the beggar. Then a vagrant from the community arrived, who used to beg through all the town of Ithaca, a man celebrated for his gluttonous stomach, with an incessant appetite for food and drink. He looked huge, but had little energy or strength. He was called Aeneas. His honoured mother had given him that name when he was born, but now all young men called him Iris, because he ran around carrying messages for anyone who asked him. At this point he arrived and tried to drive Odysseus away from his own home by shouting out abuse. His words had wings. "Get out of the door, old man, or you'll be dragged off by your feet. Don't you see how they're all winking at me, telling me to pull you out? As far as I'm concerned, I'd be ashamed to do it. So get up, or else we'll fight this quarrel with our fists." Resourceful Odysseus frowned, looked at him, and said, "My good man, I'm not doing you any harm or shouting insults at you. Nor do I care if someone gives you something, even if he takes a generous portion. This doorway has room for both of us, and there's no need to begrudge what someone else may get. You seem to be a vagrant, just like me. Gods are supposed to give us happiness. But don't provoke me too much with your fists in case you make me angry. Though I'm old, I might stain your lips and chest with blood. If so, I'd enjoy more peace tomorrow, for I don't think you'd come a second time to Odysseus' home, son of Laertes." That made the beggar Iris angry, so he said, "Well, see how nicely this filthy beggar talks like an old woman from the baking ovens. But I'll make trouble for him. I'll punch him with both fists on the jaw, smash all his teeth onto the ground, and treat him like a sow who's been devouring the crop. Come now, tighten your belts so all these people here may recognize that we're about to fight. How can you go against a younger man?" So as their tempers heated up, they both grew angry on the polished threshold by the lofty doors. Strong and powerful Antinous observed them there, and, laughing cheerfully, shouted to the suitors, "My friends, here's something we've not seen before. Some god has sent this house such entertainment. Iris and the stranger are quarrelling. They're going to fight each other with their fists. Let's get them started right away." Antinous' words made them all jump up, laughing. They gathered there around the shabby beggars. Then Eupeithes' son Antinous said to them, "Listen to me, you brave suitors. I've something to suggest. We've got goats' bellies lying by the fire, stuffed full of fat and blood, our dinner meal. Whichever of these two men wins this fight and proves the better man, let him stand up and take the one he wishes for himself, and he will always eat his meals with us. Nor will we allow another beggar to come into our group and ask for food." Antinous finished. They were pleased with what he said. Then resourceful Odysseus, with his crafty mind, spoke to them. "Friends, there's no way an older man, weighed down with grief, can fight a younger man. But that trouble-making stomach of mine urges me to do it, so he may beat me with his blows. But come now, let all of you swear a powerful oath that not one of you supporting Iris will use his heavy fists to strike at me unfairly, and by force overpower me on Iris's behalf." Odysseus spoke. They all promised, as he'd asked. After they had sworn and finished with the oath, Telemachus spoke up with strength and confidence, so all could hear. "Stranger, if your proud spirit and your heart urge you on to beat this man, don't fear a single one of these Achaeans. Whoever strikes at you will have to fight with many more as well. I am your host, and the two princes here agree with me, Antinous and Eurymachus, both men who understand things well." Telemachus spoke, and everyone endorsed his words. Then Odysseus, while hitching up the rags around his private parts, exposed his fine, large thighs, and they could also see his wide shoulders and his chest and powerful arms. Athene came up close beside that shepherd of his people and enlarged his limbs. Each suitor, quite astonished, would glance at the man beside him and then mutter words like these: "Iris will soon be in trouble, something he brought on himself. He won't be Iris any more, judging from the thighs that old man shows under those rags of his." That's how they talked. Iris's heart was badly shaken, but the servants girded up his clothes and led him up. He was afraid, his flesh quivering on every limb, but they forced him forward. Antinous sneered at him, addressing him right to his face. "You bragging fool, if you're afraid and tremble at this man, you should not exist or ever have been born. He's an old man worn down by misfortunes that have overcome him. I'll tell you this, and what I say will happen. If this man beats you and proves himself the better man, I'll throw you in a black ship, then take you over to the mainland to King Ithaca, who tortures everyone. With pitiless bronze he'll cut off your nose and ears, then slice away your cock and balls and throw them to the dogs, raw meat for them to rip to pieces." Antinous spoke. An even greater trembling seized the beggar's legs as they led him to the middle. Both men raised their fists. At that point, Lord Odysseus, who had endured so much, was of two minds. Should he hit Iris so his life would leave him where he fell, or should he strike him a less punishing blow and stretch him on the ground? As he thought about it, this seemed the better choice, to hit him with less force, so the Achaeans wouldn't look at him too closely. Once their fists were up, Iris hit Odysseus on his right shoulder, but Odysseus then struck him on the neck below his ear and crushed the bones. Immediately red blood came flowing from his mouth. He fell down, moaning in the dirt, grinding his teeth. His feet kept kicking at the ground. The noble suitors threw up their hands and almost died of laughter. Odysseus grabbed Iris by the foot and dragged him through the doorway until he reached the courtyard and the portico gate. There he left him, leaning against the courtyard wall with his stick in his hands. Odysseus then addressed him. His words had wings. "Sit there and scare away the pigs and dogs. And do not in your miserable state try to boss around strangers and beggars in case you end up in even worse distress." As he spoke, he threw his tattered bag full of holes across his shoulders, hanging by a twisted strap. Then he went back into the doorway and sat down. The suitors moved inside, laughing uproariously, and threw him words of greeting as they went. One of the arrogant young men said something like, "May Zeus and the other eternal gods give you, stranger, the thing you most desire, what fills your heart, since you've now stopped this greedy vagrant begging in this place. We'll soon take him over to the mainland, to King Ithaca, who mutilates all men." That's how they talked. Lord Odysseus was happy at such welcome news. Then Antinous set down by him the huge goat stomach stuffed with blood and fat, and Amphinomus picked 2 loaves from the basket, placed them before Odysseus, and then toasted him with a golden cup, saying, "Greetings, honoured stranger. Though right now you've got many miseries, may happiness be yours in future days." Then resourceful Odysseus answered him and said, "Amphinomus, you seem to be a man with true intelligence. Your father, too, had the same quality. I've heard about his noble name, Nisus of Dulichium, a brave and wealthy man. And people say you come from him, and you do seem discreet. So I'll tell you something. You should note this and listen. Of all the things that breathe and move along the ground, earth does not raise anything more insignificant than man. He thinks he'll never suffer any harm in days to come as long as gods provide prosperity and his knees stay supple. But when blessed gods bring on misfortunes, he bears those too, though much against his will. The Father of gods and men brings men the days which shape the spirit of earth's inhabitants. Among men I was set to be successful too, but, yielding to my strength and power, I did many reckless things. I trusted my father and my family. So no man should ever practice any lawlessness. He should hold his gifts from gods in silence, whatever they give. I see suitors here planning desperate acts, wasting the wealth and dishonouring the wife of a man who, I think, will not remain away for long, not from his family and his native land. He is close by. May some god lead you home, and may you not have to confront the man whenever he comes back to his own place. For I don't believe once he comes here under his own roof, he and the suitors will separate without some blood being spilled." Odysseus spoke, and after pouring a libation, drank some honey wine, then handed the cup back to the leader of the people. Amphinomus went through the house, head bowed, with foreboding in his heart, for he had a sense of troubles yet in store. Still he did not escape his fate. Athene had bound even him to be destroyed by a spear in the strong hand of Telemachus. He sat back down on the chair from which he'd risen. Then goddess Athene with the gleaming eyes put an idea in the mind of wise Penelope, Icarius's daughter, to appear before the suitors, so she might really get their hearts excited and win more honour from her son and husband than she'd had before. With an unnatural laugh, she spoke out and said, "Your enemy, Though my heart was never keen before to show myself to these suitors, it is so now, disgraceful though they are. And I've got words to say to my own son. It would be better for him not to mingle with those arrogant suitors. They may say nice things, but they're making plans for nasty schemes in future." Then her housekeeper Eurynome answered her and said, "Indeed, my child, all these things you say make sense. So you must go and say that to your son. Do not conceal it, but first of all you should wash your body and put ointment on your face. Don't leave here showing both cheeks stained with tears like this. It's wrong to go on suffering grief forever and never stop. Your son is old enough to grow a beard, and you prayed very hard to the gods that you would see him reach that age." Then wise Penelope replied and said, "Eurynome, although you care for me, don't tell me I should rinse my body off or rub my skin with oil. Gods on Olympus have ravaged all my beauty since the day Odysseus went off in his hollow ships. But tell Hippodamia and Autonoe to come in here. They can stand beside me in the hall, for I won't go in there alone among the men. I'd be ashamed." Once Penelope said this, the old woman went through the chamber to instruct the women and urge them to appear. Then once again Athene, bright-eyed goddess, thought of something else. She poured sweet sleep over Icarius's daughter, who leaned back and fell asleep. Lying on the couch, all her limbs relaxed. Meanwhile, the lovely goddess gave her immortal gifts, so those Achaean men would be enchanted with her. First, with an ointment made from ambrosia, she cleaned her lovely face, like the balm well-crowned Cytherea rubs on herself when she goes to the joyful dancing of the Graces. She made her taller, too, and changed her figure so it looked more regal. Then she made her whiter than fresh-cut ivory. Once she'd done all this, the lovely goddess left, and white-armed servants came, chattering as they moved there from their chambers. Sweet sleep then released Penelope. With her hands she rubbed her cheeks and said, "In spite of heavy pain, a deep, sweet sleep has held me in its arms. I wish pure Artemis would quickly bring a gentle death to me right now, so I no longer waste my life away, mourning in my heart and craving my dear husband, a man with every form of excellence, the finest of Achaeans." Once she'd said this, she moved down from her shining upper chambers. She was not alone. 2 attendants went with her. When the noble lady reached the suitors, she stood beside a pillar, holding up the well-made roof, with a bright veil before her face. Loyal servants stood with her, one on either side. The suitors in their hearts felt immediately overwhelmed with sexual desire, and their legs grew weak. Each of them prayed he could go to bed with her, but she addressed her dear son, Telemachus. "Telemachus, your wit and understanding are not as steady as they used to be. While still a child, the way you used to think was more astute. But now you're fully grown on the verge of being a man, and anyone from somewhere far away who looked at you and only saw your beauty and your size might well observe that you're a rich man's son. Yet your mind and thoughts are no longer wise. What sort of actions are going on in here, in this house, when you allow a stranger to be mistreated in this way? And now what if this stranger sitting in our home should suffer harm from such severe abuse? You'd be disgraced among all men and shamed." Shrewd Telemachus then answered her and said, "Mother, I don't take issue with you now for being angry. I know about these things. My heart understands them, all the details, good and bad. I was still a child before, but I can't think through everything correctly. With these men sitting round me on all sides, they strike at me and hatch their wicked plans. And I've no one here to guard me. But still, this battle between Iris and the stranger did not turn out the way the suitors wished. The stranger's strength made him the better man. By Father Zeus, Athene, and Apollo, I wish these suitors now inside our home could be overpowered, just as Iris was, their heads drooping down inside the courtyard and inside the hall, with each man's limbs gone limp. That's how Iris is now sitting beside the courtyard gate, nodding his head like some drunken fool. He can't stand upright on his feet or walk home, wherever his home is, because his precious limbs have all gone slack." As they were talking to each other in this way, Eurymachus spoke to Penelope and said, "Daughter of Icarius, wise Penelope, if all the Argives in Iasian Argos could see you, more suitors would be feasting in your home from tomorrow on, since you excel all women for your form, your stature, and for the wisdom you have in your heart. Wise Penelope then answered him, Eurymachus, what's excellent about my form and beauty the gods destroyed when Argives left for Troy, and Odysseus my husband went with them. If he would come and organize my life, then I'd be more beautiful and famous. But now I'm grieving. A god has sent me so much trouble. You know, when he went off and left his native land, he held the wrist on my right hand and said, Wife, I don't believe all well-armed Achaeans will make it safely back from Troy unharmed. For Trojans, people say, are fighting men, who can hurl their spears and draw their arrows and control swift-footed horses, those things which soon decide the outcome of the fight in an impartial war. So I don't know if God will get me back or I'll be killed over there in Troy. So you must care for everything back here. When I'm away, think of father and mother in the home, the way you do right now, but even more. But when you see our son has grown a beard, then marry who you wish and leave the house. That's what he said. Now it's all happening. The night will come when some hateful marriage will be my lot, now that I've been cursed, for Zeus has taken away my happiness, and painful grief has come into my heart, into my spirit. The way you men behave was not appropriate for suitors in the past. Those who wish to court a noble lady, daughter of a wealthy man, and compete against each other, bring in their cattle, their own rich flocks, to feast the lady's friends. They give splendid presents and don't consume another's livelihood and pay him nothing. Penelope finished. Long-suffering Lord Odysseus was pleased that she was getting them to give her gifts, charming them with soothing words, her mind on other things. Then Antinous, Eupeithes' son, spoke to her. Daughter of Icarius, wise Penelope, if one of the Achaeans wants to bring a gift in here, you should accept it. It's not good if you refuse a present. But we'll not be going back to our estates or any other place until you marry whoever is the best of the Achaeans. Antinous spoke. His comments pleased the suitors. Each man sent a herald out to fetch some gifts. One of them brought back, at Antinous' request, a large and lovely robe with rich embroidery. It had golden brooches on it, 12 in all, fitted with graceful curving clasps. Another man brought in a chain made of gold for Eurymachus, a finely crafted work strung with amber beads bright as the sun. 2 attendants carried back some earrings for Eurydamas, with 3 droplets in a stylish shining cluster. For Lord Pisander, Polyctor's son, an attendant brought a necklace, a splendid piece of jewellery. All Achaeans presented her with some gorgeous gift or other. Noble Penelope then left and went upstairs. Her servants carried up the lovely gifts for her. Then the suitors turned to joyful songs and dances, enjoying themselves, waiting for evening to arrive. And as they entertained themselves, black evening came. They then set up 3 braziers in the hall for light. They put dry kindling round them, hard seasoned wood, freshly split by axe. They set torches in between, and brave Odysseus' servants held up the blazing flames. Then Odysseus, born from Zeus, man of many schemes, addressed those slaves in person, saying, Servants of Odysseus, your master who's been gone away so long, go to the rooms the honoured queen lives in, and twist the yarn beside her. Sit down there and make her happy, by staying in the room or combing wool by hand. As for these lamps, I'll keep providing light for all these men. Even if they wish to stay for fair-throned dawn, they cannot wear me down, for I'm a man who can endure much suffering. Odysseus spoke. The servants looked at one another and burst out laughing. Then fair-cheeked Melantho chastised him shamefully, a child of Dolius, but Penelope had raised her, treating her as her own daughter, providing toys, whatever she desired. And yet in spite of this, her heart was never sorry for Penelope, for she loved Eurymachus and had sex with him. Now, in abusive language, she rebuked Odysseus. You idiotic stranger, you're a man whose mind has had all sense knocked out of it. You've no wish to go into the blacksmith's home or a public house somewhere to get some sleep. No, you're here and you babble all the time. Around these many men, you're far too brash. There's no fear in your heart. In fact, it's wine that seized your wits, or else your mind has always been that way and forces you to prattle uselessly. Are you playing the fool because you overcame that beggar Iris? Take care another man better than him doesn't quickly come to stand against you. His heavy fists will punch you in the head, stain you with lots of blood and shove you out, send you packing from this house." With an angry frown, wily Odysseus then answered her and said, "You bitch! Now I'll go and tell Telemachus the way you talk, so he can cut you up limb from limb right here." Once Odysseus spoke, his words alarmed the women, and they scattered, moving off and fleeing through the hall. Each of them felt her limbs grow slack with fear. They all believed he was telling them the truth. Then Odysseus stood beside the flaming braziers, keeping them alight. He looked at all the men, but in his chest his heart was making other plans which he would act upon. There was no way Athene would allow the suitors, those arrogant men, to stop behaving badly, so that still more pain would sink into the heart of Laertes' son, Odysseus. So Eurymachus, son of Polybus, began to speak to them, insulting Odysseus to make his comrades laugh. "Listen to me, those of you who are courting the splendid queen, so I may speak to you of what the heart inside my chest is urging. The gods were not unwilling this man came into Odysseus' home. In fact, I think the torchlight emanates from his own head, because he's got no hair up there at all." Once he'd said this, he then spoke to Odysseus, destroyer of cities. "Stranger, how'd you like to work? What if I hired you for some distant farm? I guarantee I'd pay you. Gathering stones to build up walls and planting lofty trees, I'd bring food there for you all year round, clothe you, and get some sandals for your feet. But since you've only learned to misbehave, you won't want to acquaint yourself with work. No, you'd prefer to beg throughout the land, collecting food for your voracious gut." Resourceful Odysseus then answered him and said, "Eurymachus, I wish the two of us could have a contest working in the spring when long days come, both mowing down the grass. I'd have a curved scythe in my hands, and you with one just like it. Then we'd test ourselves in lush grass with no food to eat till dusk. If we had oxen there, the best there are, huge tawny beasts, both well fed on grass with strength that never tires, and in a field measuring 4 acres and containing soil which turns under the plough, then you'd see if I could cut a straight, unbroken furrow. If this very day Cronos' son stirred up a battle somewhere, and I had a shield, 2 spears, and a helmet all of bronze well fitted to my temples, then you'd see how I'd join in with fighters in the front, and you'd not chatter on insulting me about my stomach. But you're much too proud, and your mind's unfeeling. You really think you're an important man with real power because you mingle with a few weak men. But if Odysseus returned, got back here to his native land, those doors over there, although they're really wide, would quickly seem too narrow for you as you fled outside." Odysseus finished. Eurymachus in his heart grew even angrier, and with scowl he spoke. His words had wings. "You miserable man, I'll bring you trouble soon enough. You talk brashly in this way among so many men, no fear in your heart. Wine has seized your wits, or else your mind has always been like this and prattles vainly on. Have you gone mad because you beat that beggar Iris?" As he said this, he picked up a stool, but Odysseus sat down beside the knee of Amphinomus from Dulichium in fear of Eurymachus. So Eurymachus struck a person serving wine on his right hand. The wine jug fell and hit the ground with a resounding clang, and the server groaned, then toppled backwards in the dirt. The suitors broke into an uproar in the shadowy halls, and one man, glancing at the person next to him, said something like these words: "How I wish that wandering stranger there had perished somewhere else before he reached this place. He'd not be making such a fuss among us now we're brawling over beggars. This meal, the splendid feast, will bring us no delight now that this trouble's got the upper hand." Telemachus then spoke to them with royal authority. "You fools, you've gone insane, and in your hearts no longer hide how much you eat and drink. You must be being incited by some god. Well, now you've feasted well, return back home. When the spirit bids, you can get some rest. Still, I'm not chasing anyone away." Telemachus spoke, and they all bit their lips, astonished that he'd spoken out so boldly. Then Amphinomus, splendid son of Nisus, son of Lord Aretius, spoke to them and said, "My friends, when a man says something just, no one should get enraged and answer him with hostile words. So don't abuse this stranger or any slaves in Lord Odysseus' home. But come, let the wine server pour some drops into our cups so we can make libations and then go home and rest. This stranger here will leave him in Odysseus' palace, and Telemachus can cater to him. After all, it's his home which he came to." Amphinomus finished. They were all delighted with what he'd said. A herald from Dulichium, Lord Mulius, attending on Amphinomus, mixed wine in a bowl for them and served it round, coming to each man in his turn. They poured libations to the sacred gods and drank wine sweet as honey. Once they'd poured libations and had drinks of wine to their heart's content, they all went on their way, each man going to his own house to get some rest.